NBC Theater returns following these messages.
Oh, Kim, right after Different Strokes, I stay up to watch Hello, Larry, because I really look up to you.
Gary, you look up to everybody.
Different Strokes, Hello, Larry, Friday.
Good evening. Reports that consumer spending is beginning to drop are being confirmed by new government figures. The Department of Commerce says retail sales were up only 0.6% in February. Previous months had seen a rise of more than 1%. President Carter travels back to Cairo tomorrow with renewed hope for his peace proposals. Israel claims last-minute breakthroughs, but some observers say there is little hope of an agreement. And a nationwide strike may be upon us next month if the Teamsters fail to reach an agreement with the trucking industry. We'll have more news in just a moment.
I'm Susan Anton, inviting you to watch Stop Susan Williams on Cliffhangers on NBC 11. Tune in.
Cliffhangers, Tuesday night at 7 on NBC 11.
More news later from Newscenter 11.
You know what?
Good evening, I'm Bob Kurtz. Tonight on Newscenter 11, you will see the greatest basketball player in the land, watch the biggest hockey fight you have ever seen, and hear comments on the Twins. Join us.
Too Far to Go continues, starring Michael Moriarty and Blythe Danner.
President Carter's peace proposals may be failing in the Mideast, and some citizens in St. Paul are at odds with the mayor over the location of a Job Corps center. Those stories and more coming up next on Newscenter 11.
When you come to Red Lobster, I'm going to make sure that everything goes right. No matter what you order, from golden fried shrimp to one of our combination platters, I'll bring it to your table hot and delicious. When you're ready for your second or third cup of coffee, I'll be there. And you never have to wait for your check. Little things that make eating at Red Lobster so special.
Red Lobster is where America goes for seafood.
Maybe I can't do everything, but for you, I'm really gonna try.
Now Pepsi Light is sugar-free and only 1 calorie, with a touch of lemon that makes it the freshest tasting 1-calorie soft drink around.
The fresh one is here, 1 calorie, Pepsi Light. The fresh one is here, 1 calorie, Pepsi Light. Pepsi Light, Pepsi Light, Pepsi Light. The fresh one is here, 1 calorie, Pepsi Light. The fresh one is here, 1 calorie, Pepsi Light.
Good evening. Our top story tonight comes from the Mideast, where the search for peace is continuing. And it looks like President Carter will be returning from that troubled area of the world without a signed peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. But before returning, the president will make an extra stop in his tour tomorrow at Cairo, where he'll brief President Sadat on the new problems in the talks. More on those problems now from Judy Woodruff.
Was not gloomy this morning at breakfast when the president got a first-hand report from the Israeli cabinet on its all-night session. Afterwards, there were reports that the two sides had narrowed some important differences, but not all of them. A little later, in a speech to the Israeli parliament, Mr. Carter made it plain that serious problems still had to be worked out. He said he tossed out speeches of either despair or celebration and instead would walk the middle ground and talk of concern and hope. Then he returned to the theme that caused him to make this trip in the first place, that time is running out.
We are now at the very edge of turning Israel's eternal dream of peace into reality. I will not pretend that this reality will be free from further challenges. It will not. But we must make this beginning. We must seize this precious opportunity.
Later, Israeli and American officials held another meeting, and when Prime Minister Begin emerged, he sounded unusually optimistic.
What I can say is, as I underlined already, real progress was made, and I am very happy about it.
Tonight, the president went sightseeing, but he kept his thoughts to himself.
Some of the stumbling blocks to a peace treaty reportedly include a demand from Israel that Egypt provide oil from the Sinai fields that Israel will abandon. An Egyptian demand that some of its soldiers be stationed in the Gaza Strip during transition to self-rule by the Palestinians. And another Egyptian demand that the Palestinians can rule themselves by the end of the year. During all the peace negotiations today, Israel's parliament, the Knesset, provided an eye-opening experience for President Carter. While Prime Minister Begin gave a speech, Mr. Carter found out why that body is famous for haggling and heckling. And for President Carter, there wasn't much to do except to sit and watch the proceedings. While all that was going on, President Sadat was keeping a low profile and reportedly spent much of the day at a mosque praying and being alone with his thoughts. He asked his advisors to keep him informed on developments in Israel, and a little later, an NBC cameraman caught Sadat driving in the streets of Cairo. But Sadat had no statement on current problems with the talks. Iranian women are finding that new freedoms in their country may not apply to them. Ayatollah Khomeini has called for women to discard their Western apparel and wear the traditional head-to-toe black chador in public. The women have not taken that suggestion lightly. Instead, they have taken to the streets by thousands in protest, and like other protests, there has been violence. Several Muslim zealots attacking not only the protesting women, but some of their male supporters. The women have demanded the Ayatollah cancel all of his decrees and provide women with equal rights. Americans just aren't saving enough energy, and it looks like the government may have to use mandatory conservation measures by this summer. That was the message from Energy Secretary James Schlesinger speaking today in Washington. Schlesinger says we're using 31 million barrels of oil a day, a new all-time high, and he says the Western world is so dependent on Mideast oil that any interruption in supply would spell disaster.
That oil should be cut off for an indefinite period of time. What would we have to do?
The impact of a year's cut off.